Okay. So as some of you may be knowing, we've been doing the Beatitudes the past couple of weeks. So Matthew 5 verse 3 says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs will be the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." Tahlia.
Thanks, Liv. Thanks, guys. It's me again. I got a bit of yellow text here, which is so dumb, so I don't know if I can read all of it. We'll see how we go. Yellow. I don't know. All right. Thanks for reading that out, Liv. So we've made it to verse number 9, which is "Blessed are the peacemakers." Forgot about a clicker. All right, so I have a question for you, but don't say it out loud. It's on the screen. You plus who equals conflict? And maybe just think about that. We'll get to that at the end. Just hold that thought and don't say it out loud. Okay, Smets, we're going to play video.
I would have to say world peace. Definitely world peace.
That's easy.
World peace. World peace.
What is the one most important thing our society needs?
That would be harsher punishment for parole violators, Stan. And world peace.
I had to play it. Okay. So I thought I'd start by doing what Wayne does, and he gets the big word and breaks it down so that we can understand it. So I Googled peace, and yeah, this is what I got when I Googled peace. Okay, so freedom from disturbance, tranquility, or a state or period where there is no war or the war has ended. And the little example phrase, "he just wanted to have a drink in peace." So that seems to be the people's perception of peace. And the girls in the video, they seem to think the same thing, that it's just no war or no fighting and then everything will be great, right? But actually, that sounds a little bit more like a truce. It sounds a little bit more like a ceasefire, right? And we can all promise to just stop fighting, but even if we take away the war or even if we take away the fighting, it's not going to create harmony, because we know that the underlying issue might rest for a little while, but it's going to resurface and it'll come back up and it'll probably be uglier. So Miss Congeniality, because that's certainly my example in life, she knows that real peace takes a little bit of extra work, right? Because she's an undercover cop, so she's like been out in the world and she gets it, right? So, okay, so, okay. So I couldn't go very deep with the word maker, so maker is just the person to make it happen, right? So peacemaker is a person to make peace happen, okay? All right, so biblical peace is, I actually went a little bit too far. Oh, sorry, I skipped that. Okay, sorry. All right, so biblical peace in the Bible isn't so surface level as like the absence of just war or conflict, right? So peace is taking action to restore a broken situation and to reconcile with other people where there was once disagreement or conflict. Okay, and then here we go, we join them together and we have peacemaker. Okay, so Jesus is saying that we're the ones to make peace happen, okay? But my next question is, sorry, I flicked. These are tricky. My next question is why? Why should we be the ones to make peace? If they hurt me, shouldn't they come to me first? But Jesus is saying we have to be the ones to go and make peace. Okay, and here's why. The Bible says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." Have you ever noticed that a parent gets like really, really proud when you mention to them that their child is a lot like they are, that some of their good qualities is represented in their child? So I have a brother and he's got a 3-year-old son, and his son, Isaac, he's so much like Nathan. He's really outdoorsy and he's really adventurous, and it's so easy to see that that's Nathan's son. And Nathan is like so smitten about all this because he's got like a little miniature version of himself, and it's just like the cutest thing. But I also think that that's a little bit like that with God, maybe. In that when we start to reflect his good qualities, we are recognized as children of God. But if we're to be called children of God, then we have to strive to be like him. So as Christians, one reason to be a peacemaker is because we're following our Father in what he's doing, and God is certainly in the business of peacemaking. Excuse me, it's thirsty work. Okay, for example, Jesus is the ultimate Son of God, right? Jesus is a great human example for us. There was a time in Israel where there was very little peace. In fact, there's probably no peace at all because there are many broken relationships socially. Like the Jews are trying to stay away from the Samaritans, and the Pharisees are trying to stay away from the sinners, and they all stayed away from each other to try and keep the peace. So it was super broken around that time that Jesus was born into. All right, but Jesus was righteous, but also humble. And he spent a lot of time with people who were considered to be outcasts in society. So we see the way he treats people like tax collectors. He would love them, he would go and spend time with them and eat dinner with them, but he wouldn't turn a blind eye to what they were doing. He did confront what was wrong. They were cheating people of their money, and he did bring it up. He dealt with the issue while still loving the person. We see it when he talks to the woman at the well. There's already a lot of cultural conflict there because she's a Samaritan and he's a Jew, and he shouldn't really be talking to her. They don't like each other. But he puts that aside so that he can get to the bottom of the issue. And she's like had all these husbands, and the guy that she's living with isn't her husband, so it's like it's a problem, and Jesus brings it up. And it changes her life. Read this story. I won't go into the full depth of all of these stories, but I think the bottom line is that this is the character of God, is that he does confront things, but he loves at the same time. And so we see that played out in the way that Jesus treated people. Ultimately, Jesus confronted our sin and his death on the cross, and he dealt with our sin to make peace between us and God. So Jesus is the ultimate peacemaker. Okay, next thing. All right, 2 Corinthians 5:18. All this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. So God made peace with us, and it cost him greatly. It cost him the life of his son, but he did it to bring us back together. So he was restoring and reconciling a relationship, which is the definition we had earlier. Our biblical definition of peace was restore and reconcile. So reconciliation, as it is in the verse, reconciliation is peacemaking. Peacemaking is reconciliation. Now, God is pretty serious about us making peace with each other. And in fact, we see that later on in Matthew chapter 5. Guys, this is like crazy. Okay, there we go. All right, we have this verse. So he's talking about, we know that back in those days, in order for the people to have peace with God, they would bring a sacrifice to the temple, and it was quite an ordeal. I mean, I imagine it would be quite an ordeal because some people traveled really, really far, and you had to go get an animal, pay for an animal, like get this animal over there. And then we see this verse, which probably to them sound a little bit crazy. So therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there at the front of the altar. First go and reconcile with them, and then come and offer your gift. So that's pretty crazy, because what he's saying is, like, I know you've done all this work to make peace with me, but just hold that for a second and go and make peace with others. And it's kind of like Jesus is saying, don't come to my temple or to my church and be so happy and excited to worship, and you're so happy about the peace that you now have with God and what I did for you. I forgave you, and you're really happy that now we're in relationship, when you can't actually do that with your brother or with your neighbor. He's saying, go and sort that stuff out. That's important to God, our person-to-person relationships. He wants us to be in relationship and to reconcile the broken relationships. So according to God, it's urgent and it's necessary that we go quickly. Okay. Now we're on to like the practical stuff. Okay, so how can we put all of this into action? So we've understood so we've got to understand that what peacemaking is and what peacemaking is not. So when I said to Cheyenne, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be talking about peacemaking. And Cheyenne was like, oh, that's going to be a little bit difficult to show the difference between peacekeeping and peacemaking. And I was like, oh, Cheyenne, that's such a good point. So here we go. I have a story for you. So just imagine that we're just all like hanging around after church in this room, and you know that saying, oh, there's an elephant in the room, there's an elephant. Yeah, so just imagine we're all in this room, and there's an elephant in the room, an actual huge elephant, just right in the center of the room. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, there's an elephant. And then I realized that some people haven't even noticed that it's there. Some people are like, just doing their thing. And then I look close to the elephant and I see that there's like a couple of people like feeding it some peanuts and just like keeping it calm, just keeping it all under wraps. It's no big deal. He kind of whispers to me, don't worry about it. I've got it all sorted. It can stay. Like, you don't even have to worry. It's not even making a noise. But so those are your peacekeepers, all right? They're just happy to like throw a blanket on it, just feed it peanuts, it's whatever. But your peacemakers in the room, your peacemakers would be like, that's an elephant. We've got to get that elephant out of here. Like, it's going to get angry. It's going to have its trunk like going around and squirting people, and then it's going to trample. It's going to have to go to the bathroom, and that's going to be big, smelly. So we're going to have to just get it out of here, right? So you can see the difference between a peacekeeper is wanting to solve the problem by like a bit of hush-hush. Maybe it might just go away on its own. And then the peacemaker is trying to solve the problem properly and actually deal with it and get it out so we can move on. So yeah, that's my little example. Okay, so here's another example. So I made a little scale. I don't know where you are on the scale. You can decide. But I have keepers as a broom because they like to little sweep under the carpet, right? And I too have a confession to make. I'm going to share something. It's hard to share. So in my kitchen, the floor, I'm not the only one, okay? In my kitchen, the floor's lino, right? Which I like. Lino's fine. But sometimes, like, food will fall on the floor, and if I'm just, in a bit of a rush, or I can't really clean it up at that particular time, I might, maybe, and you do it too, I might just kick it to the side. I just kick it a little bit, but the problem is the lino's starting to curl up a little bit at the edges. So sometimes it just disappears. It's really good at the time. Oh, never mind that then, don't need a vacuum. It's gone under the lino. So it's okay now, everything's fine, it looks good and everything. but I know that the lino is getting old. So soon the lino will have to be replaced. And when we pull it up, we're going to find food under the lino, and it's not going to look the same. It's going to be worse. It's going to be fluffy and moldy and festy. And then we have to clean it up. We could have cleaned it up, but now we're waiting until it's worse. Then we have to clean it up. So a little bit gross. So that's why the keepers get the broom. And then over the other side, it's opposite for me. Over the other side here is the cross, which is representing the peacemakers. And that's obviously cross because Jesus is like the ultimate peacemaker, right? Because we read all that stuff about how he cares about justice and he wants to restore a relationship, and he does it properly, and he confronts things and he loves while he's doing it. So we have the cross for the peacemakers and the broom for the peacekeepers, okay? But while we are in this camp, there are some other methods that you might recognize. Okay, well, that's tiny writing. Can you read that? I can barely. All right, so there are other versions of peacekeeping. So you got your avoiders. What problem? What elephant? I don't see an elephant, do you? So they'll just avoid the problem. That's, for sure done that. So you have your avoiders. And then cancelers. It's a little bit abrupt. It's like, you're dead to me, and I don't care what you think, and I'll just do away with you, and I don't want to be your friend anyway, and it's fine. I'll just cut you off. I'll cut you off. Cut you off. I won't cut you. I'll cut you off. and then I'll just move on, and it's whatever. I'll move town if I have to. So those are your cancelers. Cancel culture is like a thing right now, so I had to put it up there. So you got avoiders, and you got cancelers, and a third one, my favorite, the dominators. So all you have to really do to be a dominator is to just be the loudest one in the room so that no one else can get a word in edgeways because you're so loud and dominating. And so everyone else is silenced, essentially. And so, yeah, you can keep the peace that way because you have no conflict because no one wants to verse you. So those are all like versions of peacekeeping. And I will share very quickly. Just to add a little bit to the dominators one. I was thinking about my work. I look after this little 6-year-old girl, and when she has a problem, as I think most 6-year-olds do, when she has a problem, she just like yells. She's like so loud, and she can't be reasoned with at that time. Like I don't even know what to do sometimes. I don't cave, but I want to. Because she's so loud and she just screams until she gets the attention that she needs. And I was thinking, that's kind of like a dominator, except she has some excuse because she's 6, but we are not 6. So there's no need to throw a temper tantrum. So, okay, we'll move on. Okay, so we'll jump back to our original question now that we've learnt things. You plus who equals conflict. So there might be someone special in your life, or an old friend or a family member, or someone that you've had a lot of issues with lately. So how are you planning to make peace with that person? How are you planning to reconcile that relationship? So our options, we saw very clearly, these are our options. You can avoid them, you can cancel them, or you can just yell until you get your way. Or you could try peacemaking. Peacemaking might be a little bit of hard work, and it might involve some listening, maybe trying to see their side of the story. You might have to admit that you overreacted or that you're wrong about something. But it's the only way to true peace. That's God's way to true peace, is that we deal with these issues, but we deal with them properly, and we don't sweep them under the carpet. So, to help us, I have 3 key things. So the first thing, when there is something, just like the verse suggested, you're about to do something else, but you remember you have an issue with someone, go quickly. So the first thing is go quickly, and if you don't go quickly, then you are unlikely to do the second thing, which is go directly. So if you don't go quickly, you might start talking to other people about it and getting some people on your side, and it might spread, And maybe something that could have been small and dealt with gets bigger and uglier. So if you don't go quickly, you may not go directly. And then the third thing is to go humbly. You're not here to win the fight. You're here to make peace. And that could mean that you might lose. You might lose your argument. Maybe you're not right, but you got to be willing to accept that that might happen as well. It may not resolve. But the Bible says in Romans 12, 17 to 18, one of those, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone, as far as it depends on you. So we've got to do as much as we can to have peace with our brothers and sisters. And sometimes it won't resolve. Maybe it won't. But as much as we can do, let's do that. I'll share just a really quick story. I lived, maybe like 4 years ago, I lived with some girls in a share house on the sunny coast. We had like the best time, and we were really good friends. But there's always drama, especially girls in a house. There's always drama. So like one time, I won't say what it was, but I did this thing, and my housemate Yana, she was quite offended by that, and it was offensive. It wasn't the good thing to do. And we were in a group of people, and I did this thing, and she got really offended by that. And she didn't really bring it up right at the time, but I could tell that she was pretty quiet. She was pretty quiet, and we were going to, I think it was a Bible study the next day, and she was like pretty quiet, and I'm like, something's up. And I was sort of oblivious to the whole thing. I just didn't really think it was that big of a deal. But she just like, I really respect her for it, really. She stopped and was like, Tahlia, that thing that you did you mean to do that? And she just confronted me about it. She fully confronted me about it. And I was wrong, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm actually super glad that you brought it up, because now we can have peace. Now we're friends again. And not only are we friends again, but I'm better friends with Yana because she was willing to be bold and bring something up with me so that there was nothing between us. Even though it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable sometimes to have to bring up an issue. But I think the point that I'm trying to make here is that sometimes if you're willing to be a peacemaker and you're willing to do the hard work that it takes, your relationship, which maybe once was broken, can end up even better. Because now I know that any interaction I have with Yana is an honest one. Any mistake that I make, she'll help me get through it. And I can do the same with Yana. Any issue that I have with Yana, I can just go straight to her. I can go quickly, and I can go directly, and I can go humbly. And our relationship is always good because of that. So I'll finish on final verse. No, I don't have it on the screen. 2 Corinthians 13, verse 11. Finally, brothers and sisters, rejoice. Strive for full restoration. Encourage one another. Be of one mind. Live in peace. And the God of love and peace will be with you.